Everyone has a story to tell. Welcome to DingoTalk, where we explore the experiences that make us who we are. Here's your host, Carlo Guadagnino.
What's going on, Chuckleheads? I am Carlo Guadagnino. This is DingoTalk. My guest this week is the head football coach at Colby College, Coach Jack Cosgrove. Before we get into Coach Cosgrove's story, let's tell you a little bit about Colby. It's in Waterville, Maine. They have 2,400 students. They have an 8% acceptance rate and a 92% graduation rate. They have it's $97,000 before aid, drops all the way down to $18,000 after aid. And their top three majors are quantitative economics, political science and government, and psychology. Now, Coach Cosgrove is going to talk to us about his time at Maine and how he got himself to Colby. Very interesting story of getting himself back into the coaching profession after walking away. But it's not my job to tell his story, it's his. So without further ado, this is Coach Cosgrove. What's going on, Chuckleheads? I am Carlo Guadagnino. This is Dingo Talk. My guest this week is the head football coach at Colby College, Coach Jack Cosgrove. Coach, thank you for joining me.
Carlo, thanks. It's an honor to be here. Thanks for the invite.
Absolutely, Coach. We're learning very quickly this season about the NESCAC, so we're going to roll down that. But before we get there, I got to throw you in the time machine. We got to learn how we got to this point. So my first question is, how do you find yourself at Maine in 1974?
Recruited, as a part of the old Yankee conference. I was quarterback in high school and in the Boston area. Looked at some Yankee conference schools. I thought, quite honestly, I might have the best chance to play sooner at Maine, and that was one of the reasons for selecting that, and that worked out well for me there.
Now, what kept you at Maine? Because I see here as I'm looking down at your resume, you go for you're there for 4 years. You're then there as a GA. There's a couple other spots in the middle there, and then you have a very extended period back in Maine. So why stay as a GA? I guess let's start there.
Well, I love my experience as a player there. I played for two great mentors. Walt Abbott was my initial coach, and then Jack McNell, who, later went on to fame at college, and Doug Flutie in those years coached me my second 2 years, and he was kind of the guy that influenced me into getting into coaching. Offered me a grad assistant spot when I completed my eligibility there, and I took that and ran with it. I became a high school coach initially, thinking I kind of died and gone to heaven, at that early age. But then really kind of felt like I wanted to coach in college, and Coach Bicknell hired me at BC, which wasn't far from where I was a high school coach. And I worked there as a receiver coach for a couple years. And then Tim Murphy hired me up at the University of Maine in 1986. And, going back to where I'd gone to school was a huge attraction. But quite honestly, if I'd gotten an offer anywhere in the country, I would have probably taken that job just because it was a jump up for me at the time. And, working at your alma mater is special. It's unique. You have a closeness, a feeling that way. And I went up the ladder there. I followed Kirk Ferentz, became the head coach in 1992, and really had a long 23-year career as the head coach there. Hit 60 and felt like it was time, maybe. And it was, let me describe it this way, it was an exhausting job. It was a resourceless job. We're in a great league now at that time, the CAA, with James Madison, Villanova, Richmond, William and Mary. And we're holding our own against it, but we're doing it without a lot of help, financially, resource-wise. Playing in a high school stadium, not to take shots, but those were the facts, and it wore me out. A recruiting trip for me was getting in a car and driving to Pittsburgh from Maine, not flying, driving, because the budget was so limited, and it just wore me out. So I took a year, and then the engine came back alive for coaching, and I've been at Colby now 7 years, and enjoyed every moment here. Different level of football. I would say this, a more rewarding and I guess the kind of football that I appreciate that has a a value system still attached to it, and it's not about a transfer portal or how much money I'm going to pay you. It's about young people who love the game of football, and they pursue it passionately because of that love. And they're, let's just say it in a main way, that they're wicked smart here too. I am so impressed with the credentials they bring academically, along with their football ability, and they're great young men to work with. It's been really a rewarding experience here.
Now, Coach, let me unpack a couple of things. One, is it difficult when you stop playing to be a GA at the place that you played at? And I asked that question because, and I know that we're going a ways back, but the reason I asked that question to most coaches that end up in that situation is, how do you transition from player to coach and
Yeah.
have guys that you were in the locker room with 6 months earlier, ready to go balls to the wall for? Now you're the guy with the clipboard and the visor on. So how does that transition work, and what's the advice for younger coaches that are looking to do that?
Well, I did it so long ago, I don't know if it was a big thing back then. Coach Bick asked me, I said yes to everything he asked me to do. So that's kind of how it was. And I was excited to be able to just step into the opportunity. I was a quarterback. Jack was a quarterback coach at Boston College before he got the job at Maine. And so I just kind of looked up to him in awe and felt like, yeah, this is my opportunity. He's offered it to you, so I went and ran with it. But I've heard that question a lot, and I know it has to be difficult because not only you left out the fact that I was probably drinking beer with some of those guys. So it is something that it takes a little bit of discipline, an adjustment in one's life to separate yourself from that life to a leader life of coaching and teaching and being responsible to the program and staying away from that side of the life you had previously led. It's I don't think for me it was not difficult. I don't think it should be if you have your mindset the right way. And this, pursuing coaching was in my blood. It came from my dad, so it's one of those things that I just really wanted to make work.
Now, you talked about how you spent some time at Maine, then you go to the high school level, then you go to Boston College, you come back to Maine, and the resource thing is something I want to get into. And I've talked to a couple of different coaches about this topic as well. What is the significance of having an administration, which it sounds like, and judging by all the other great things that are going on up there, Colby, in the sports world, it sounds like it's an administration that is very much about the academics, but is also very much behind the athletic teams. What is that like? You've already kind of touched on it a little bit with saying it's not as draining. You're enjoying coaching again, whereas it seems like at the end of the time at Maine, you were ready to maybe embark somewhere else.
Well, that's an accurate statement. I think, but they're two different levels. So that the nonstop Division I recruiting, it's become a monster. It was a monster then. It's gotten to be a bigger monster now. There are restrictions here at the Division III level. There is just less of like in the NESCAC in particular. We can't go out on the road to recruit. So all that car travel that I spoke about before,
Gone.
gone, you know. And that's kind of given me more energy, more juice at the age that I'm at that allows me to be, and hopefully I can say it this way, a better coach and a better leader of the young men here. But Colby does have an exceptional president. David Green is a visionary of great ability. One of the things that people don't know about him when he got the job, the first thing he did, groundbreaking in terms of facility, is this Harold Alphon Athletic Center, which is a $250 million enterprise. And quite frankly, when it got finished, I thought it had better facilities than the University of Maine.
Wow.
It really, it's something special, unique. We have a weight room that probably rivals many Division I schools, and it's really changed the culture here. David Green promotes championships and winning in the same breath as he's promoting academic achievement and greatness there as well. And it's just something I think is possible here simply because the facilities are in place. The campus um, is a wow factor. It is a incredibly impressive college campus with its old school brick buildings, New England architecturally, but also a lot of new buildings, especially this rec center, but also an athletic center, but also a theater arts building, the new dormitories they're building to expand the volume of students here. It's really an uplifting place to be as you look towards the future.
Now, talk to us about and we've done this before as well with other coaches. The When you go and interview as a position coach and you go and interview as a coordinator, I assume, from the conversations I've had previously, a lot of X's and O's. More X's and O's when you're a position coach than it is so much more scheme when you're a coordinator. When you're a head coach, what are those conversations like, and who all are you meeting with? Because I know there's normally rounds, right? Like you got to go meet with the board of trustees and the president and the athletic director and the vice president of this, that, and the other. And you got to meet with the players. And then, so how did that come about when you were, or what was the interview process like for you getting to Colby?
Well, it really, I think I might have blindsided him, if I could say it like that. I had been out for a year and a half, and something got me on a drive back from Boston with my wife. We were driving north, coming back, and Waterville's about an hour south of Bangor, or Orono, where the University of Maine is, and I just said, I'm going to go take a ride through Colby, see what that looks like, to me now. And I did, and drove around the campus a little bit and spent a night. It was a Sunday night thinking about, the coaching world and getting back into it. And the next day, I called a very dear, close friend of the Alphon family and inquired about the job. And the Alphon name is all over Colby and the University of Maine. They're just phenomenal people and have impacted the state incredibly. Um, Made the phone call, and the next thing I knew, I was getting a call from Colby to come up and interview. And they had gone through the process. They were close to the end. So it was, but I'm an established name in the state, having been in Maine. I was at the University of Maine for over 30 years and the head coach for 23. So, and I was an hour away. So the name recognition came immediately. Like I said, I think I disrupted their plans, but they offered me the job and incredibly grateful for that. And, I can remember after interviewing and getting a chance to see the plans of this building because they had just broken ground here with this. It didn't open until 21. Um, so I remember driving home after the interview saying, I want that job, just being totally convinced that I wanted to be here. And it took some time. I mean, it has taken time for us to kind of move forward. And we had a breakout season last year, but it's all been well worth it because I think good things take time to build, and hopefully we're now in a situation where we can start to be consistent in that factor.
Now, what are we looking for in a Colby guy? What is a Colby guy? Give us as in depth as you can. Put us in the room. If you're recruiting a parent, obviously kids got to be smart. We know that all you NESCAC people, I'm not allowed. I'm allowed to talk to
Yeah.
you from this distance. Morgantown to Colby, I'm allowed to talk to you from because that's far enough away that I'm not anywhere in the academic world. But so what are we looking for in a Colby guy?
Well, it does start with the transcript. It really does because I think that dictates our excitement level. When you see, because as coaches, you watch the tape, you can evaluate and you see a kid can play the game.
Yeah.
He's got skills and it's just something that I think from my perspective, I spent a long time in my career at Maine and here being a school that isn't down the street from anybody. So we have to, and they're both very rural. I mean, I'm a Bostonian at heart, but I gravitated to Maine because I think if I would say it this way, you drive into the state of Maine and there's a sign that says "Welcome to Maine," the way life should be. And I have gravitated towards that. So was my wife. I brought her from my hometown, and we've raised four kids here because we have no traffic up here. we have trees, no traffic. There are just things like that that make it appealing. And we've all four of my kids now grown and live in the state and love living in the state. It's much it fit us. Um, but you do to get a young man to first you got to get him to come up. That's our most difficult thing to do is because I believe in American geography classes. I think they teach that Maine and Alaska next to each other up on the Arctic Circle. We hear a lot of cold and dark stories and those kind of critiques.
Uh-huh.
But once we get them here, it's an eye opener for them, and even more so for their parents. And I say it this way. There's not a lot of distractions up here. You come to a place that is as remote as this is. It's isolated. It's away from the mainstream, so to speak. You have an opportunity to see and envision greatness as a student, athlete, and young man. And that's what the parents care about. That's what they're looking for. They have all done great jobs of overseeing the academic lives of these young men because their credentials have to be significantly impressive, to be able to get into Colby. So I think how it works is we evaluate them. Then we got to go through an academic read with admissions. If we get one of these, a thumbs up on recruiting them, we're full bore. And then it's getting them back up here and doing everything we possibly can to be able to have them become part of our program. And then from there, it's building that culture. I think it's real important from our end that we find out if a young man loves the game of football. You just can't like it. You got to love it. And we think we've built a system here that, quite frankly, will spit out the weak. If you can't keep up with the demands of the game, then the program itself will make you walk away. Not me or not another coach or another teammate. It'll be you. And I've always believed that you win with what comes out of the locker room. Not what's up on the chalkboard or the marker board. It's what comes out of the locker room and their togetherness and the love of the game, the love for each other, the play for each other mentality is something I've spent a lot of time, not only researching but promoting to our players.
And then what's let's go back to that geography map you were talking about. Obviously, you don't travel for the recruiting side of it anymore. But what is who are we looking for? Maine, Massachusetts, Connecticut? Is it a national pool? Are we trying to get people from the other side? I mean, I know the West Coast is kind of it's ways out there, but it seems to be where D3, there's not many out there. There's like 2 conferences, and then there's a lot of land in between.
Yeah.
What are we looking for region wise when we recruit to Colby?
Well, that's a great question. When I got here and assessed what our roster looked like, it was primarily, and I would say probably 80% New England prep schools.
Okay.
Yeah, we've expanded from that, and we've gotten some assistance in that regard from admissions in terms of becoming more national. We have players now on our team, from Florida, from New Orleans, from Texas, from California, from Utah, from Minnesota, from Seattle, Washington. We have gone national, and I think one of the things is that the college is also trying to have a national scope to get away from that regional reputation that it had. Still it's always a challenge. You want to get the good players, and we still bring in those from the Northeast. I would say that the New England and Massachusetts prep schools still provide us, like Connecticut and even down in New Jersey, some really good football players. New York has been good to us. The island of Long Island's been good. So we have expanded. A lot of this came as a result of where I had been at Maine. I was a big fan and still am of New Jersey high school football. We had a big imprint down there from our time at University of Maine just because there's just so many players down there. We didn't get at the top of the heap, I can promise you that. But we got a lot of unknown and underdeveloped players from Jersey who came up and prospered in Maine, much along the lines of what I described to you before, getting away from that environment to a new environment. And they embraced it, and their greatness followed, in terms of the weight room and the academics and the football and all those things that are necessary. But I'd say now we're much more a broader net, and there are, like I said, we've got three or four kids from California. We will go out there to the West Coast elite camps that they hold. We go down to Florida. We've got a teammate of the Heisman Trophy winner playing for us. So out of Columbus High School in Miami. So those are things that indicate that we have stretched our net.
Now, is that realization from the school side also kind of a byproduct of what is going on in the smaller college atmosphere? I mean, I know.
I believe it is, and it's the changing elements. We're learning all the time, and something that's fascinated me is how the concept of transfer is not just in athletics, but it's in students themselves who kind of like the idea of testing different schools. We've lost guys who have come here because they couldn't get into Duke or Notre Dame or Vanderbilt, done a year here, and then gone to those schools, not to play football, just to
Just to
be
be
probably to go to the football and basketball games, right? It's a different world now.
well, let's talk about that. Let's talk about that a little bit. The transfer portal. How
Yeah.
much are you guys, and let me ask it this way. How often are you looking at the transfer portal? And when you do, is it guys opposite of what you just described? Maybe guys that you talked to that went the opposite route, went and looked at a Duke, at a Vanderbilt, at maybe a Carnegie Mellon, and said, I don't really like being in it. I don't like being in downtown Pittsburgh. I don't like being in Durham. I want to go get away. Is that where you guys start seeing, or do you guys kind of stay away from the transfer portal?
Well, no, we first of all, we've had guys go in it from here. And I've supported that as long as they get money. If you go as a preferred walk-on, you're better off here.
Right.
And I'm quite honest with them. If I think they can, I'll support them. If not, then I'm going to tell them, you can't. I've coached at that level. I don't see you doing that. We've had two guys go in. One got an offer of money and went as a kicker punter, and he deserved it. He was a first year kid, and he deserved it. And the second was our all conference linebacker. His first 2 years he went in to see if he could play at that level. We had that conversation I mentioned about, yeah, I think you can, and I'll support you as long as you get money. But the schools at the FCA level are looking from drop downs from the FBS. They're not going to take a D3 kid coming up. So nothing happened. He stayed here and had a great senior year with us here. Graduated from Colby and has moved on. So, I am upfront with our guys if I think they can. Now, on the other side of it, Colby started admitting transfers last year. It was a product of in the spring of 25 we learned. So we secured a young man from Bryant College, which is part of the CAA now, who's playing for us. He came in last June and as part of our program. We've added two more transfers this year. One was from a young man who we offered 2 years ago, but he chose to go to Trinity College in Texas. Came back at us this December and said, "Hey, coach, would you consider me as a transfer here?" We had offered him back then, so we took him, and he felt like he hadn't made the right decision. He stayed in Texas at Trinity because he was from Houston. So
Okay.
now he's here in the program. He was here this spring, and adds to our program very much. And then we added a third transfer this year from an SCS school. So we are involved. We are looking into it because Colby has given us the thumbs up on that. It's not going to make our careers we're not going to become a transfer haven for sure. We're
Right.
going to build our classes our classes are in the 22 to 24 range. So we're going to be predominantly probably, I would say, 20 first years every year and maybe two or three transfers.
Now, do you think, and correct me if I'm wrong, there's a roster limit in the NESCAC, correct?
Yes, there is. Yeah, there is.
Do you believe that in the coming years, given the climate that's going on in the college world, do you think the NESCAC will lift the roster limit, or is it at the right place for what the college it wants to do?
Yeah, I have an opinion on that that's kind of I guess keeps it in perspective. I loved having an unlimited roster here. We got it up to 94, um, and it felt real good. It's 84 now, so we've had to slowly come back and reduce and say no to guys who want to play football, which I
Right.
hate to do. I hate to do that, but we've had to say no. I don't think it's good for football to be limited to the extent that we are. What I was used to at the University of Maine, and I say this all, my roster limit there was 90 for Title IX purposes.
Hmm.
And I learned how to live with a 90-man roster. I learned how to manage it, and I had to manage the numbers and the equivalencies, the scholarship equivalencies, and never had a problem with it. I did it for 23 years. Um, I don't know that there's as good a working knowledge in this league about injuries and things that can happen in regards to this game, and 84 can be a low number in a bad year with injuries. We were banged up pretty good last year, and you could feel it towards the end of the year on your scout teams and things that you just couldn't do to be more efficient in practice and drain your team less, with scout units and things like that. It'll catch up to us if we don't go. And my compromise number, I'm not going to say let's go unlimited, but let's go to 90 at least.
Right.
Somebody said, well, how about 95? Well, you know,
That-
you got to win the first battle before you win the second one. Let's get to 90 because it is six more. And, it's something that I've have enough experience with and knowing that it works or
mhm.
it can work, would be my take on it.
Now, with that, there's a couple other things I want to go down the road with you on spring ball. We're
Yep.
now out of spring ball, and I think everybody is either at graduation or is already graduated. Maybe we're coming up to it. Um, would you like to see Division III spring ball mirror the Division I, the Division II model, or is the spring ball model correct? Because the way I look at that, and what I guess what irritates me, I've talked to coaches that remember when spring ball was at the Division III level was just a helmet or just a penny. Then it was you were allowed to throw a tennis ball but no footballs. Then we finally were allowed to have a football, but you couldn't have helmets and we couldn't do one-on-ones. Now we're at the point where I believe it's, you got the couple days of uppers, couple days of helmets, and then most of it is for the conditioning side. I've heard varying things. One from the athletic training staffs that it might, with the spring sports, might stretch them thin. I've heard you got to watch those D3 coaches. They'll be up there doing Oklahomas at 6 o'clock in the morning, which I don't think anybody's doing Oklahomas in March. That's just my opinion. Um, but would you like to see spring ball mirror the other levels so that you can actually play your sport?
Well, do you know we're even more restricted in the NESCAC than the Division III schools. We are helmets only,
Okay.
10 days of practice, very, very limited opportunities to practice because of the training staffs being stretched too thin. So it's really, with our sport, you really have to make sure the trainers are around it. And there's, I think, throughout the conference, just not a willingness, whether it is to hire, day trainers or whatever. But, there's a real, we've got a ways to go just to match the Division III model
Okay.
of uppers and pads. And yes, I think that would be helpful. I mean, in every way, shape, or form, just to simply grow the young men and grow the game. We're behind because we only play 9 games. We're going to talk a few, as you mentioned, about the playoffs, but I don't know how well prepared we are for that next step because we don't play a non-league team. We have one less week of practice in preseason, so there's a lot of, I guess, wondering about what it's going to be like this upcoming next year with the adjustment to the NCAA playoff participant opportunity.
Now, do you think that we're not to jump ahead of myself, but are we looking as a conference to maybe not obviously not this year, but down the road, are we going to add a 10th game, or is that something that seems to be we'll table it, let's get our feet wet in the dance and get used to what this is going to be like, and then maybe make adjustments from there?
Well, I don't know if I can answer for the conference. I would hope we would start being more aggressive that way, though. I think that's important because the initial winner of the conference this fall will be up against it, I think, a little bit, and it's just going to be a real challenge to be going into the playoffs with less of what is called your preparation in prelude to performance. It's
Right.
really going to be a whole new arena for us. And the team that gets that opportunity will probably, is going in shorthanded. I guess in terms of volumes of games, volumes of practice, and those type of things. And if you sincerely want to pursue excellence, you really have to make sure that you're doing all the things necessary in order to perform at that level.
When it strikes me as a little odd for the NESCAC not to at least look at it. And I'm not saying that that's what you're saying. It's just from a broader picture, a lot of schools up there in the New England area. A lot of schools. Like you guys could very easily, where some of these, the island schools, they struggle to find a non-conference game. I think you guys could probably throw a rock and hit somebody with a non-conference game. Well, maybe not you
Well,
guys up in Maine, but
no, you're right. The schools in Connecticut and Mass and those places, really, you're probably exactly 100% correct. For us, a little more, but not nothing more than an hour. Say we could, like the University of New England is a school nearby, and they had I think an 8-2 season last year. Uh, Going and playing them, beating them would be a quality win outside of your league, and that's just something that I think will come up um, more and more in the next few years in order to help the conference and the conference participant raise its level of play.
now, how often have you guys talked about MPI? Because I heard what you said there about the if you went up and played the University of New England, got a win there, that would be a quality win out of conference. That's MPI. That's MPI verbiage. Have you guys started to look at that, or with only having the 9 games, there's not really a purpose to look at it yet,
Well,
right?
I peeked at it, but I don't spend time worrying about it because there's really no control mechanism. We're a league, we play league games, and that's it. So what's outside really does not right now impact us,
Right.
but it does. That's a way to impact an opportunity by expanding our schedule and seeing if you can get a quality outside opponent and get a quality win as a result.
Now, let's talk about 2025 before we preview 26. Last year's big movement was the addition of the iPads to the sideline. Like you said, you guys go 6-3, was good enough for third in the conference, and really was I would call it. I think you technically call it second, right? I mean, because the top two, is a tie for first place. Um, First question for that. What was your takeaway once the dust settled and you get through Christmas break and everything? What was the final takeaway for the 2025 season for you guys?
Well, it was very rewarding because we had been close. We've been 4-5 for 4 straight years. Not really cracking the egg and not breaking. We just kind of found ways to get some great wins, but found ways to lose games as well. And it seemed like this year when we lost, we lost.
Mhm.
But when we won, we really came up with some great wins. I can't back at maybe one of our losses and felt like we should have had that game, but we got beat pretty handily by Wesley and pretty handily by Williams. The Middlebury game was one that got away from us at the end. But again, I felt like in contrast, the wins were games that we really earned. We earned them by really playing complete football for the most part. Oh, and in all cases, winning two of the three battles. We were outstanding on defense, in the course of the year. Had some really highlight moments. Our defense standing up to uh, some end of the game opportunities that we shut down. Our special teams were very good throughout the entire year, especially our punt team. There were just events and plays during the year that really stood out as game breakers, and our offense responded when it had to. We were not as good offensively as we had hoped to be. Lost our quarterback, ended up playing a first-year quarterback for the last four games. In all four of them, we won. But the reason we won was because we didn't turn the ball over, not once in four games. And things like that, being the least penalized team in the league, being outstanding on those little things added up for us, and it was really a year where I felt like the team responded to challenges, adversity, in late game moments in a way that just made you real proud of and we were really excited about our seniors and the leadership they provided. They had been invested in all those previous years, but didn't see the results. And we had not had a winning season in 20 years at Colby, and it was crazy. But we beat Trinity to open the year. We hadn't beat them in 25 years. That's a long time.
I hear you. I hear you. I'll drop for those of you that have watched before, 25 years. So just remember, Bethany, we can always snap that streak again. So now, Coach, teach me who's the rival? Who's the rival for you guys in the conference?
Well, there's a natural rival in the league or situation. There's a championship within the conference. Have you heard the Little Three, Amherst, Wesleyan? Yeah, we have the CBB, Bates, Bowdoin, and Colby.
Okay.
So the two main schools, Bates and Bowdoin, are our rivals. And the winner of if you sweep that series each year, you win the CBB trophy, which we've done five of the 7 years I've been here. And both of those games last year, we beat Bates in overtime in a night game that was probably the most well-attended game I've been around in the NESCAC since I've been here. It was a homecoming for them. It was a special night down there in Lewiston. They had us beat. We rallied at the end to get a field goal and won in overtime. But it was a very invigorating type of win we would experience over the last 4 weeks. And then we had Bowdoin at home to close the season out and beat them at home as well. So those are clearly our rivals, and there's something at stake, just like in the Little Three, which is Amherst, Williams, and Wesleyan.
Now, it's a trophy then? Where does
Yeah,
that
it's a
fit?
trophy. Yeah, it's a trophy and a deep, deep history. It's pretty cool. It's very cool.
Where is the trophy currently?
It's right outside my office here,
Right
young
there.
man.
Hey, hey.
You want to peek at it? I'll bring it in.
We we might do that after. I definitely want to see it.
Okay.
Now, finishing up with the 2025 season, how much did you guys use the iPads?
We did. No, we didn't.
No.
We have them now, but they weren't. That was just a random thing last year. People got involved. Some used, some didn't,
Mhm.
and it's still that way. But we have gone ahead and purchased it, um, in hopes that they will say yes to it in terms of the conference. And it seems like they will, but it hasn't been stated as yet. Same we said of the helmet communication. We are on top of that. We're ready to get it, have it ready to roll, but waiting for, again, the conference go ahead and on the usage.
Well, and that I think goes back to your point earlier when we were talking about the non-conference game and et cetera. That's a piece of equipment that if the guy across the field has it for a playoff game, you're putting yourself behind the eight ball. So I'm excited to hear that we're at least it's starting to move. You just got to wait for an okay.
I tell people this when I was at the University of Maine, and I mentioned that we were a non-resource team. I used to vote for everything that was going to make us, get involved and spend the money to help us get better. I just, no, we want that. We want
Right.
that. Well, this is something that's necessary because, in fact, if you're hosting a playoff game, you have to be able to provide all the technology and such for your opponents. So it's a necessary evil, I guess, if you want to call it that, but you got to have it in play.
I mean, and it's interesting to me the themes. You see some coaches that are they're real happy about it, and they understand. It helps me show the linemen who was in what gap or what coverage they were in, etc. And then you get, and I like to call them the hardliners, the purists in the football game, that will flat out say it ruins the chess match. If I'm a better chess player than you, get better at chess. You shouldn't
Yeah.
be. So I see both sides of it. But now talk to us. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that my concern would be how much time are you spending on the tablet as opposed to coaching your players? Now you're trying to watch the tablet, but the game goes so fast, the benefit that we all get as coaches in life is we make decisions within 40 seconds.
Right.
So do you have an extra 5 or 10 to wait on something? I don't know. I haven't been involved in that, but that would be my concern. How much time are we spending on those tablets as opposed to getting our guys coached and back out on the field? Because it could be a sudden change. We need it back out there.
Right. And then the only other reason I've talked to the big other topic I've talked about with the coaches that we've had before about the iPads is, does this lead us to a more broader Division III replay system? And I don't use replay when I'm not talking about the toe tap in the corner of the end zone,
Yeah.
or did a guy get an inch if it's down on the goal line on either side. I'm talking about, there's one specific call that affects college football specifically, where a player can be called for it and then lose 4 quarters of play if it's deemed to be the right call. Whereas if you
Yeah.
had a coach with a red flag or a timeout and, hey, can we go take a look? Here's the league
Yeah.
official. Let's go look at it. Do you think that the technology heads that way?
I hope not. Um, at this level, I think because I see it being very difficult, um, simply because a lot of the schools in at least the league I'm in are entrenched, and this is how we're doing things. There's not, I guess, an excitement to grow and expand and to see football get bigger. You know, uh,
Right.
I think they like how it is. And again, I'm speaking from a NESCAC experience. I have not been at, but there's a controlling element here that wants to keep football from getting too big for its own britches. That makes sense?
Makes sense. I mean, look at look at them guys up there at the Power Fives. I think that maybe they might like to put a genie back in the bottle.
Because, my experience at Maine, I loved having the red hanky. And
I'm sure,
I thought I was good at it too, getting it thrown out in the field when it was necessary for situations that you described. They do happen. They
right.
really do. But
And you don't want to take away from, if especially, let's use the NESCAC. You got 9 games.
yeah,
So 9 games over 4 years, you got, let me do that quick math in my head. That's what,
36, 36.
36 games. So you could lose one of those 36. That kind of defeats the whole purpose of why
Sure.
you're out there as the volunteer army anyways.
Yeah.
So now, Coach, let's fast forward. We did the spring ball thing. We got through the technology. We know that you guys are we know your thoughts on the playoff situation. Let's talk about 2026. One, who should we be keeping an eye on from Colby? Who are some guys that you're excited about?
Well, we've got some young men that, again, in general, that I'm excited about just because of the spring and the attitude, the effort, the discipline which they went about their business in the weight room, and then carried it into spring practice. Again, limited amount of contact and things like that. I mean, it's just more of a hand fighting and that type of stuff. But skill development was big. Our guys committed themselves to competing every day. We had solid practices. We're big on what I would call competition in a one-on-one state of mind. Wideouts, DBs, running backs, linebackers, O-line, D-line. Putting guys in a high-profile situation to perform, so they learn. I've always felt like competition is a win or lose situation. And if you do lose, you learn. That's where you learn how to play the ball in the air, how to play the back shoulder throw, how to come through a defender to get the football. I mean, how to pass rush, how to set. Those are just things that are special and unique to the individual positions in our game. And the more that you do, it's an opportunity to individually get better. Individually get better, the team gets better. And I felt like we had a lot of that going on this spring. We're real excited about. We lost some good players. I'll be honest with you. Our two outside ends on defense were towers of strength for us. Jack Mullen and Josh Ionsi. So they're gone, and so we've got some younger players stepping up. But I liked what I saw there. Our linebacker crew got decimated as well, but we've got again some guys who played a lot last year who have stepped up. A lot of special teams work on their part last year who are now ready to play. Our secondary returns intact, which is a very, very positive thing for us. We've got some good players there. And on offense, our quarterback is gone, but the first year player who came in at the end is with us. We picked up the transfer, as I mentioned. We've recruited well there. Running back, we've got a real good running back who finished strong last year for us, returning for his senior year. Wideouts, the rookie of the league, rookie of the year 2 years ago, Jack Nye is back for his junior year. We've got some good players outside over there. Two really outstanding offensive linemen, Liam Welch and Bryce Mallory, returning for us. And should anchor that offensive line situation for us. So we feel good about those things, but it's a matter of coming together in preseason. One of the disruptive factors of the spring, we had 16 guys abroad, so they missed spring practice, which is pretty common to the NESCAC. Guys could take a semester overseas, so that's something that leaves you just wondering a little bit. I mean, how much work was done overseas. It's
Right.
challenging. They've heard from us enough about it, so let's hope they've responded.
Coach, what's the message to the Colby faithful going into 2026?
Well, I think it's a message of excitement. I think there's always a level of patience you have to have as you develop your team. It has to uh, grow its identity, its strengths, and that was something that we found happened quickly last year, and then we got completely humbled. I mean, we beat Trinity and started feeling really good about ourselves, and went and got our butts kicked at Williams. We didn't handle that well,
Right.
so it's a maturity that you have to, you kind of have to uh, teach, develop. We certainly did not do the humble and hungry situation on that next week, and I blame myself on that. So, there's a lot of things that we'll still need to do to be recognized and respected across the league for consistency, because that's ultimately what the game is all about, the consistency of which you perform, week in and week out, and the product you put on the field week in and week out. And, last year gave us a really good taste of that, but there's still a lot of work to be done on this in this program for this program to gain again that strength of respect that has been lacking. We like when you're a bottom. I say the league has its haves and its have-nots. We've been a have-not. Now we snuck ourselves into the haves this year, but everybody probably looks at it and go, what are they doing there? So it's one of those things that you got to keep emphasizing, and letting people know how important it is to continue to be the kind of football team that needs to be respected and to perform well and win on Saturdays.
Like it. I like it. Coach, what is a piece of advice that you would give somebody, maybe that senior that just walked across the stage, maybe it's somebody that's on a staff currently or not on a staff currently, was on a staff looking to get back into coaching football, just in coaching general. What would be the piece of advice you would give someone that wants to get into this profession?
I'll tell you what, uh, I am trying to talk them out of it sometimes because you don't go. Do you go to Colby or NESCAC school to be a coach?
Well, maybe. I don't know.
Well, I'm seeing more and more of it. I'll tell you, one of the things that makes me smile are, our captain from 2 years ago, Will Nippon out of Poly Prep in New York City. He's a defensive coordinator at Springfield College right now. He's been there for 2 years. Just got named defensive coordinator. It makes me proud to see that. And there are a number of guys. We had 6 guys from last year's senior class go overseas to grad school and play football in Europe. We had one of our young men who internship with us last year, just got hired as an assistant O-line coach down at Harvard. These are NESCAC guys. And as you know, the NFL, there's a lot of NESCAC young men who are working in front offices and things like that, the economics majors, they're working in capology or those kind of things. So there's a lot of opportunities in the game that are out there. Coaching's the one that can be well paid if you get up in that FBS level. I can tell you that. But for the most part, it's really blue collar type of work. And I don't know if, let's just say I don't know if I would recommend it because it's the thing for me is that you miss your family growing up. I have four children. I don't know how much of their young adult life that I got to be a part of. But, again, to do that, my wife used to say to me, "You go make the money. I'll take care of the kids. They'll get everything they need," and it's worked out. Now they're at a point in their lives where I drink beer with them and I hear about myself back then. It's kind of makes me laugh.
Uh, Coach, what what is the importance or significance of Division III, and specifically Division III football, but Division III as a whole as well?
To me, it's young men who have been humbled because they don't meet the standards. They're not big enough. They're not fast enough. They're not tall enough. They don't run. They don't vertical jump well enough. They don't broad jump well enough. The standards have been set, and the standards are irrevocable. They're not changing.
Right.
So they're humble, but they want to play the game because they love the game. And they search for a spot where they can play the game at the next level and compete, and commit to something bigger than they are, which is the team. And I think the best part about it, from my perspective, is they come out of here with incredible degrees. I mean, this school, whether it's economics or government or the sciences, biology, pre-med program, they're going to get a great degree. What football provides them is a classroom outside of the regular classroom that teaches them about teamwork and commitment and discipline, and leadership skills that added to their degree make them an incredibly marketable young men. They just are. People want to hire these guys.
Right.
They just do because they not only have excelled in the classroom, but they bring with them that almost militaristic type of education that football provides. And that's special and unique. Guys that can get out in front of and reference back to the days that they were a great teammate and they were committed to something and they disciplined themselves every day for that right to be a part of that team. That's the beauty of Division III football.
Now, Coach, the last thing I want to ask you before we jump into the Fast Five is you, at the beginning of the episode, you talked about how this coaching thing was in your blood. Can you expand on that a little bit more?
Well, I'm a guy that grew up in Hyde Park, Boston, a suburb of Hyde Park, excuse me, a suburb of Boston. We moved out to a town called Sharon when I was 10. And I remember my dad coming home one night from work. He drove a milk truck in Boston, in Charlestown. He came home and walked in the house and he said to my mom, he said, "We really screwed up moving here. They don't have a football program here in the high school." Well, he started it. Pop Warner, he started the football program, got it going with a youth program, led to a high school. And by the time I was a freshman in high school, we had a high school football, and I had a great experience there. My dad was a very uh, multi-talented man in terms of motivating and inspiring youth. And I just feel like it rubbed off on me, and the game that he chose wasn't his game of choice. He was a baseball, basketball guy, but he thought football was the man maker of all man makers. And that's why he dedicated himself because he wasn't as skilled as coach because he could coach his baseball and he could coach his basketball. But the football thing was really where he went to school and learned. And I'll never forget just looking when they were developing the program. And I was this, I don't know, 10-year-old kid, so all excited that they were having a coaches meeting in my kitchen. And I kind of did a reconnaissance mission on my belly to sleep down the hallway and listen to what they were talking about in the meeting. And I guess it goes like this. I heard names mentioned of young men that I knew that were older than me and scared me because they smoked cigarettes and hung out uptown in the bad section and did all that kind of stuff that you heard in 1965. And my dad, somebody said to my dad, he said, Jack, I don't think those are the kids that you want in this program. And I'll never forget my dad saying, no, those are exactly the kind of kids we want in this program.
Yeah.
And I said, good for you, Dad, So it was one of those things that just got into me. Everything was about football. Like I played other sports, I played hockey and I played baseball, but football was my passion. And I see that in the young men I coach today, that they love the game for what it gives them. I sit in here with moms who pretty much are a dying breed in this sport because they probably hate it, but they know what the game does for their sons, and that's why they support it. They know how it makes them disciplined. They know how it motivates them, and they love seeing that. And each and every one of them commits to that and just hopes they don't get hurt.
Right, right. Um, well, Coach, we are at the Fast Five, and I'm actually going to add a question to this. So you're going to be the first one that we added. It's going to be the Fast Six.
Okay.
First question: where'd you meet your wife?
I met my wife in my hometown. She's from my hometown.
Okay.
Uh, I was a senior in high school when she was in sixth grade, though. So it didn't happen then, but that's our age difference, okay? So you know that. But I met her after she had graduated college, and I was a high school coach at the time,
Mhm.
back nearby my hometown. She was the sister of a girl that I went to school with.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. So it wasn't you knew the sister, you hung out with it, like that you guys kind
knew
of
the sister, yes, knew the sister, her sister, or her older sister, yes. Did
small
not know my wife till I
small
met her.
small world. Coach, if you could live anywhere in the world, where would it be?
Good question. It's in Maine. I know that. I would probably say where I'm hoping to end up in a few years down in the area, Wells, Maine,
Okay.
on the coast in southern Maine.
Is
Let-
that
Let's just say,
because
let's just say on the coast in southern Maine, because I spend a lot of my summers down there. We have a condo, and I go down there, and I think some way, shape, or form we're going to be in that area.
well, Coach, you pointed out earlier that the American geography system is broken, and I think people are going to be a little shocked to find out that Alaska and Maine have an ocean, have a shoreline. So maybe that eliminates the whole dark and snowy. We got beaches, we got ocean up there. Um, what's the most important lesson that you've learned thus far over your career?
Never sell a young man short. I've been fortunate to recruit young men who more on gut instincts. I've seen things, especially at UMaine, where we recruited a lot of underdogs. I've seen, young men end up in the NFL, and that's pretty special.
If you weren't coaching, what would you be doing?
Probably banging nails somewhere.
I was doing that earlier. Uh, what is what's the best compliment you've ever received?
Oh my goodness. Best compliment I've ever received. Jeez. Probably an I love you from my wife
I like that. I like that. And then
and my kids and my kids.
this next part, because that's a two-parter. This next part was changed by a fellow NESCAC person. They told me you can't call it the best of. So I'm going to say, what's the worst insult you've ever got?
Oh my goodness.
We used to ask what the best insult was. I thought that was like, oh man, that was funny, but
Yeah.
I guess that's it, that double negative thing.
Yeah. Damn. I don't know. I've been insulted all that much.
That's a good thing. That's not a
Never to
bad thing.
never to the point of anger, I don't think. I mean, yeah, I've been told I'm a lousy coach, but that rolls off my shoulders, you know?
We had a coach. I asked that question, and we had a coach. This was maybe the second season that we did that. We were doing the Fast Five, and he answered without saying who the parent was because I think they were still currently on the team. He said, "When we win, I get an email of all the things that I messed up. When we lose, I get an email of all the things I messed up." And I'm not sure if he's trying to insult me, if he wants to be a coach, or if it's a little bit of both. Sometimes we use his email, sometimes we don't. But I save every one and I go back and I look at them. Um, and then the last question that we have for everybody, was there a question that you were expecting me to ask you? And if so, how would you have answered it?
You know, I really didn't have any idea about what this show is like. I've enjoyed this immensely, but I had no idea. I'm a rookie, and I kind of handle it. I probably handle it like a rookie, but
No, I think you handled it like a pro. I think you handled
well,
it like somebody who has maybe been through some media before and had to answer questions, but you also just kind of answered everything with I felt your heart and your brain. You
that,
didn't no
yeah.
coach talk. We didn't get a lot of coach talk out of you. We got a lot of real answers. I really like that.
Well, thank you, thank you. That's kind of how I operate.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time. I'm glad that we could get this done now that, I don't have a refrigerator being dropped on my head like the last time we were trying to
Oh
have
my
this.
goodness, that's right, that's right. Yeah, that's
Like,
right.
you had a procedure, your procedure went well. All
Yeah.
I had to do was carry a refrigerator up one flight of stairs. That did not go well for me. Um, but I really appreciate you taking the time. I hope that we can continue to stay in contact. And thank you very much for being a part of this.
My pleasure. Thank you. And you were hauling a refrigerator upstairs?
3 flights.
I did that for my wife years ago and her when I met her. It was one of my like I'm going to show her, you know. But I got it up 3 flights of stairs,
I
pushing.
I made the mistake of telling everybody that I was a football player once and that I can lift things. And now that's what I do every day.
My wife's going to like hearing this when I bring this home to her. She's going to because I told her I had a Zoom and she called a little while ago. I said I got Zoom, I'll be home. And I'm going to tell her that the refrigerator story because I got one in my life too.
So and again, it was, we got it up. So it's like, you got to come around the stairwell all the way. We got it up to the third platform. And all I had to do was bring the dolly to here. And I told the guy that was pushing from the bottom, I said, "Hey, just guide me." Well, he guided me all right. My head met the back of the wall. I met the front of the refrigerator. Thankfully, I can't make this look any uglier, but we got a face for radio and I got no cuts. So we're good. But coach, thank you very much. And
Carlo, my pleasure. My pleasure. I really enjoyed it anytime.
we'll see you guys next week.
From Severns Field in Waterville, Maine, it's the EC.
this episode of Dingo Talk. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe. For more info and to contact the show, you can find us on Twitter @DingoTalk.